In today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at these current conditions. Then we're going to be diving into 3 tropical disturbances. Things are really exploding out there, and the upcoming pattern as well. Let's just get straight into this video. And first things first, we're taking a look at our current radar imagery. As you can see, the monsoon is in full effect here for the Four Corner states and some of the surrounding states actually here as well on that eastern front. Not a lot happening to the north of this area, so this area is actually quieter. Usually we have some activity up there, but really there's nothing much happening. And really across the nation, there's not a lot of activity. We can see that down here for the Gulf states and the deeper south, there is some isolated and scattered activity happening in here. This is a very common occurrence during the summertime. And then we have a cold front extending down, not quite like that, but extending down just like this. And this, over the coming days, is going to be heading further south and further east. So we're going to see this slowly making its way across different regions here. Let's just take a look here first off at this monsoon, because we do have quite a bit of activity here surging in from the south. So we see things heading in this direction. And right here, they're heading just about like this. So we're seeing mostly New Mexico being impacted here. Southern Colorado is getting quite a bit, as well as the panhandle of Oklahoma, a lot of activity there. And this is all creating some thunderstorm activity in here for portions of Texas as well. And we're seeing Kansas get some of those effects also. Now, this is a flooding concern. This is bringing a lot of precipitation, and we've already had a lot of precipitation. So there's a whole lot of implications with this. We can also see, as we work our way further south here, that there is just this isolated activity, and it's kind of heading southward, actually. Usually you see the opposite, but we're seeing some of this like southward motion here. So these are heading from land to sea here, which is, again, pretty unusual. We're also seeing some activity here in portions of Texas, kind of the southern half of Texas there. There is some tropical possibilities here over the next 5 or so days, and we're going to be watching that, but this is kind of our least concern area out of the 3 that we have. We'll take a look at that later on. I know it's a lot. We do have some isolated and scattered activity heading towards Florida, so this is going to be a typical Florida day where thunderstorms are a possibility, and that's going to be something we have to watch for. And then as we head towards kind of the southern regions here of this cold front, we can see that this area is possibly going to be dealing with some thunderstorms a little bit later on. We see these pretty much over the Appalachian Mountains at this point. Usually once they reach the areas to the east of the Appalachian Mountains, they start to really pick up, and that's what we can kind of anticipate with this one. As we head our way further northward, we can see that there's also activity up here, mostly looking more like showers, a little bit less like thunderstorms, but I'm sure there is some pockets of thunderstorms happening in here. And this is going to head further east and further east until it's offshore of New England. So later in the day today, that's what we're going to end up seeing happen. All right, now what we're going to do here is we're going to move on, and we're going to take a look at the upcoming pattern. We're going to take a look at those tropical disturbances, and then we're going to take a look at the upcoming severe weather as well. Now here we are taking a look at the upcoming pattern. Let's just take this towards this afternoon on Monday, June 27th. We see this front approaching the eastern United States here. We see this monsoon still going on, and there's not much else to speak of. As we arrive towards tomorrow, which is going to be Tuesday, we see that a lot of the southern United States here in the southeastern corner of the nation is seeing the effects of that cold front still. We have some minor activity here kind of along the northern borders of the United States. It's kind of funny, it actually follows that very northern border throughout pretty much the entire United States. Just some minor activity. As we approach Wednesday, the 29th here, we see a lot of this activity just following the jet stream here, it looks like. Looking a little bit more impactful, I would say, for a lot of these regions. We still see some southeast activity. That's going to be a common occurrence here probably. Thursday, June 30th, we see a lot of this activity heads further eastward here with a 997 millibar low pressure center there up in Canada. Wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a cold front extending down from that. We still see the area of storminess here in the southeast hanging out still by Thursday. This is by Friday, July 1st. We see 991 millibar low pressure center now. A bit of a front potentially heading down like this. This could be what we're seeing take place here. We see some storminess over here on this very western end, but we also see some up here. So there's a hole in between, but possibly going to continue. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it is a cold front. This is by July 2nd. This is going to be Saturday. We see this. So definitely a cold front. A lot of cold air actually heading in with this. So this is a pretty intense one. Something like this is what's actually taking place. And we're seeing just a ton of storminess, as you can see, throughout the northeast, the southeast, and a lot of the central United States here on the 2nd. By the time we reach July 3rd here, we see the southeast is still dealing with this storminess, but the cold front has pretty much moved offshore for most areas. We see this monsoon continuing here for the Four Corner states. Another storm system moving onshore to the Pacific Northwest by this point as well. Sunday, July 3rd. Let's take this towards Monday, July 4th, or the 4th of July. We see a lot of storminess for a lot of these areas in here, maybe some up here in New England, and then maybe some up here in the Northwest. So a little bit of a stormy day here on July 4th. We'll have to watch out for that. July 5th, we see some storminess sparking up here along the plains and down through the deeper south here. That's kind of the look there. And then by Wednesday, this is going to be July 6th, we see this activity continuing just a little bit further eastward, and there isn't much outside of that happening at this point. So it's going to be a little bit quieter there to end the model run, I would say. After July 3rd or so, we start to see things really winding down. Now, take that with a grain of salt. That is the longer range, but at this point, that is the look. Now, let's take a look at that total precipitation through the next 10 days. And if you're anywhere in the whites, you're expecting about no precipitation. If you're anywhere in the grays, you're expecting a 1/10 of an inch or less of precipitation. The greens are going to be about 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Your blues will be 1/2 an inch to an inch. Your yellows will be 1 inch to 2 inches. Your reds will be 2 to 5 inches. Your browns will be 5 to 10 inches. And we even see some blues actually popping up, some whites and blues here for South Dakota and Minnesota. If that is the case, that's going to be 10 inches plus over the next 10 days. And if you get 10 inches in 10 days, that's an inch a day on average, which is absolutely crazy. I don't know if you guys actually know how much an inch is. You know, usually rainfall feels like it's more than it really is. If you get a lot of heavy rainfall, usually you're at about 1/4 inch to 1/2 an inch of rainfall. An inch of rain is a ton. It's a lot more than you'd think. So to get an inch per day for 10 days is just insane amounts of rainfall, is what I would say. Now, for total snowfall, we're getting to the point where we almost need to stop talking about this, but I just want to hang on until there's actually literally none. So we're just going to have to push through with this. But if you're anywhere in the grays, you're expecting a dusting. If anything, it's basically only Colorado and then Canada. If you're up there in Canada, you might be in the blues, which would be 2 to 6 inches of snowfall, and even the purples, which would be 6 to 10 inches of snowfall. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to move on, and we're going to take a look at that upcoming temperature pattern. We'll dive into that tropical activity, and then eventually the Storm Prediction Center with the severe weather. Now, here is that temperature pattern. Let's just move this towards this afternoon on Monday, June 27th. We have a bit of warm air here along the western United States. It's a positive PNA. Kind of got bigger there with the letters. That's a positive PNA. What this does is it forces the cold air to move around this air mass, which usually leads it towards here. It's got to dive down somewhere, so that's kind of what we're seeing take place. The cold air is forced to move into this region here, and we're seeing this as a pretty transitionary pattern. We see for Tuesday, there's already this warm bubble is kind of spreading eastward. We see some cold infiltrating that positive PNA there, and that's a sign that this colder air is going to move out very, very quickly. Wednesday, we see the warm air is already moving into the east. We already see more cold spreading into the west, so this is the look. Thursday, full-on ridge in the east. We see maybe neutral temperatures is what I would say here in the west. Definitely a ridge here in the east, though, where a lot of warm air is able to make its way here to the eastern half of the nation. Quite pleasant, if you ask me. Friday, it's going to be Friday, July 1st. We're going to be very hot here for the northeastern United States. Really, really hot there. Western United States here, we see quite a bit of activity there as well, which is some warmer temperatures here. Very interesting temperature pattern we find ourselves in, actually. By July 2nd, this is going to be Saturday. We see very, very mixed temperatures here in the eastern United States. I imagine this has to do with cloudiness and precipitation. You see, if we have a warm air mass in place, but you happen to have cloudiness and storminess, you're not going to be 20 degrees above normal because those clouds are going to block the sun. The precipitation is going to dampen everything and cause some dynamic cooling. All of these factors really lead towards things being a little bit cooler than the surrounding regions that might be sunny. So that's why we see a lot of blues with yellows, and then blues and then yellows. There's probably some storminess happening in there that is leading towards those weird areas. And even on Sunday, July 3rd, this seems to be also the case. We do have colder temperatures in general here for the western United States, which probably means, again, warmer temperatures are heading eastward most times. By July 4th, it looks like that is the case. We see mostly warm here in the eastern United States. Again, there is still some blue areas, which is probably that storminess like I mentioned. July 5th here, which is going to be Tuesday, mostly warm throughout a lot of these regions, mostly the central United States, but also some of the eastern United States. There's some cooler temperatures around for the Northeast and also for a majority here of the western United States. Now by Wednesday, July 6th, this is the look it looks like primarily a ridge in the east to me, mostly the central and the interior eastern United States. There is some cooler temperatures though around for the eastern seaboard there, as you can see. Now, let's take a look at that tropical activity real quickly. First off, here is the National Hurricane Center. And as you can see, we have 3 areas of disturbance now. We have 2 in our main development region, and if you don't know where that is, it's basically here. This is the main development region in there, offshore of Africa. A lot of these start off in Africa and move into the Atlantic here, and then eventually move in. This is really what puts everywhere in between these arrows at risk. I guess it's pretty far south, but you get the point. Anywhere can get hit from these storms that start out here, and we're seeing 2 of them right now. Now here's the one over the Gulf. First things first, we have a 10% chance of development over the next 48 hours, which will be 2 days, obviously. And then a 20% chance over the next 5 days. So this is a relatively low chance of development, but there is a chance, and it will at least cause some thunderstorms around for the Gulf, and it's likely heading towards very southern Texas. So we will see some impacts with that one. Now, the next yellow one here is a 0% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 20% chance of development over the next 5 days. I think this one probably has a better chance of development than the Gulf one, just because it has way more time over water, and there's a lot more that can happen with this one. So we will wait and see, but they both have a 20% chance over the next 5 days. So as of now, from the National Hurricane Center, it's about even, but I think this one, we will kind of see the probability move up probably. Now, finally, this red one here, which is the one we've been tracking for a few days now, which looks very far south, by the way, has a 70% chance of development over the next 48 hours, and then a 90% chance of development over the next 5 days. So a very high chance of this one at least becoming a named storm probably, if not a hurricane according to the intensity guidance, which we will take a look at in a minute. Now, the first thing we need to take a look at is actually our spaghetti model guidance. So here this is, taking a look. One thing you'll note, I would say the mean average of all of these is probably like this. Something like that seems to be the average. And this is a little bit further north. This is a little bit further north than what we saw yesterday. And if you tuned in yesterday, you would have heard me say that the further north this one goes, the more chance of it developing further, basically. And this one just looks further north. The less we see the interaction with this land here in South America, the more chance of development. We know these storms like water, it has to stay over water. If it starts interacting with land, that's going to hold this storm back. There's a couple stragglers too that really bring it far north, these blue ones up here. And if it goes like, let's say like this, watch out, because this one's going to be over open water heading towards the Gulf of Mexico. We have to hope that this one goes as far south as possible. The best case scenario would be these green ones down here, where the storm would have no time to develop. It would be over land. It would cause some storminess for these areas, but not enough to be a huge concern, and it would really just break up. But if it heads north of that land area, then we're going to just see it in open water, and it's just going to be able to develop freely, basically. Now, let's take a look at these ensemble models real quickly. Here's the GFS ensemble model, and this one's also looking a little bit further north. The mean average is that black line, and that is north of South America, so it does interact with the land because it is very close, but it doesn't hit. It doesn't actually, the low pressure center does not go over the land on the mean average, which would definitely indicate that this storm has a possibility of being much stronger. These blues and oranges here indicate a stronger low pressure system, and you'll notice that all of those are north of the mean average. The ones that turn blue and orange, those are very strong storms. Orange would be possibly hurricane level, and we see these hit Mexico and Central America here. When on these individual members, each green line and blue line is an individual member of this ensemble. You see the ensemble is like 30 different models, and it takes the average of those, which is the black line. But the greens and the blues and the oranges is each individual one, if that makes sense. Well, we have a lot of individual ones here that take it north of that mean average line, so they're not interacting with land as much, and they're actually hitting Central America here as a stronger storm. And this is, again, a little bit more problematic than what we were looking at yesterday, so it's going to be very interesting to track how these models trend. Let's take a look at the Canadian ensemble model, and we also see a very similar outlook here. We see a couple of these Again, north of the mean average line, hitting Central America as a stronger storm in here. Those blues, not quite as strong as the GFS model, but we do see quite a strong storm here. Now, what we're going to do is move on and take a look at the intensity guide. And here it is. A lot of these models take us just to a weaker tropical storm. And here we see a couple of these in here. Now, there is a group that you can see here that takes us up towards category 2 and 3 status. They very quickly have us rapidly climb up towards a category 1, 2, and even possibly 3 status hurricane. There's not a lot in between. We see a big separation in here where there's not a lot that take it to a stronger tropical storm or a category 1. We just see this group that like literally explodes towards a stronger hurricane. And we see this group down here that just really stays weak. Very, very weak, and there's not a whole lot in between. So, again, this is going to be very interesting. The storm has the possibility to be almost borderline nothing, and it also has the possibility to be a major hurricane. And only time will be able to really tell. There's no stronger probability of either at this point. I would say it's about 50-50, and again, only time will be able to tell. So be sure to tune in with us daily, as we're going to be going over this every single day. Now, what we're going to do is move on and take a look at the Storm Prediction Center for that severe weather. Now, here we are taking a look at the Storm Prediction Center. And for today, this is going to be June 27th, Monday. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 general thunderstorm risks. I think that's a record here on the channel as far as what we've seen before. But we have 1 for Washington, 1 for Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, and Montana as well. And then 1 up there for the upper Midwest, 1 there that kind of horseshoes around the 4 corner states down through the Gulf states and up the East Coast, and then 1 there for Florida. All of these areas expect general thunderstorms. No severe weather is expected, but anything is possible, so heed every watch, warning, and advisory. For day 2, it's pretty similar, except we have only 1 general thunderstorm risk here. So we kind of have a lot less of them, but more land area, I would say, has a general thunderstorm risk here. So it's kind of confusing, but that's just how it is. We expect general thunderstorms in here, but again, heed every watch, warning, and advisory. We have 2 darker green regions, 1 for Montana and 1 for Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. Those 2 areas is where we expect isolated severe weather to occur. It's called our marginal risk of severe weather. That's for Tuesday, June 28th. Now for day 3 here, which is going to be Wednesday, June 29th, we have 3 general thunderstorm risks there in the lighter green areas. And that's where we expect general thunderstorms, but anything is possible, so heed every watch, warning, and advisory. We also have a darker green region up there for the Dakotas, Minnesota, and a little bit of Wisconsin, and that is, again, where we expect isolated severe weather to occur in that marginal risk area. Anyway, I know we went over a lot. We're still at a 4 out of 6 today for today's confidence tab because nothing has really led me to feel more confident in what this tropical cyclone is going to do, and if anything, we have more tropical cyclones now, so it brings my confidence even lower. It's confusing times, guys. We're in a very transitionary pattern, and a lot of things are happening. For today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons, Bill Crates, James Wade, Dovin Eagle, Larry the Pan, Mandy Birchfield, Patrick Strickland, Dave Scott, and Donna Carnes as well. I would also thank our diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Marcus Connolly, Noah Lemon, Charles Tennant, Bill Dallas, Garys, and John Khaleesi also. I'd also thank our channel members, Catbite, Stephen Fan, and Jeremy Cox as well. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. I'll see you guys in the next video.